Good evening, tribe. Welcome to the show tonight. We have an exciting guest, but before we get to that, I just want to remind you all, please go in and like and share and subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow the tribe. You all are fantastic at doing that. We're growing by leaps and bounds. A couple of things before we go along. We will be announcing in the next few months the speakers to the Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference. You can always find all that information also on the Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Facebook page. It's the Bigfoot Conference Facebook page. That information is always there too. We will be announcing speakers. And then later on in the summer is when we will open up the camping that happens with that event. And that's limited. So don't forget, if that's something you want to do, you need to get in on that early because we only take a small amount of people with us. So at this point, we've got a phenomenal guest tonight. We've got the man, the myth, the legend. We have Doug Hajicek on with us tonight. Hello, Doug.
Hey, Mary.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I've been better getting over the flu, but no, I'm here. I'm alive. I'm happy. I feel, God, a jillion times better than I did even yesterday. So,
the flu's awful. It's just awful.
It brings back memories, like when you're in school and you get the flu and norovirus and colds constantly, and then, of course, as an adult. All my kids have moved out now and I don't get sick very often. So it's like, oh, this is horrible.
Yeah. I don't make a good patient. I don't do sick well. I'm kind of one of those. It's like, give me a blanket, leave me alone, give me Kleenex, something to drink, just leave me alone, Yeah,
I like to whine and moan in the dark, as they say.
Right, sit in the corner and eat worms, right?
Oh man. So anyhow, but I feel good. If I have to leave every once in a while, it's because I got to blow my nose or something.
Right, understandable. Yeah. So Doug, you've been doing this forever. What got you started? What was that moment in time? Was it something you saw on TV, or did you have your own encounter? Or tell us how you got into this wonderful world of Bigfoot.
Yeah. Well, okay. First off, I grew up with really open-minded parents. So that was really cool. I mean, it's just anything. We would get together every Sunday with all my brothers and sisters, and we would chat about science and stuff. We had kind of a weird family. It was kind of a thing that we just did on Sundays.
Yeah. Okay.
We'd all sit around and just visit, one-on-one and the whole table. And as a kid growing up, I just listened for many years, and then obviously got involved in the discussions as I grew. But so I was always interested, grew up in search of when I was young, and that was always really amazing. But then I once in a while would have like a strange encounter with like the unknown. I remember my first time my whole mind opened up. I was building a model. I'm probably like maybe 9 or 8 years old. And I have to go to the bathroom, and I run to the bathroom. We had one bathroom in our house, knock on the door, and a man says, "Oh, I'll be out in a minute." And I waited there, and the door unlocked and swung open, and there was nobody in there.
Oh, wow.
And I went, okay, life's now different. Something's changed here. And I remember thinking, God, everybody's downstairs. And I fell down the stairs trying to get to my mom and dad, the rest of my family. They were all in the basement. So, and then as you grow, you have little things like that happen that keep your mind really open. And my first encounter with what probably was a Bigfoot is I went deer hunting with my uncle and my cousins. And he put us on our deer stands when it was dark, about 4 a.m, really early.
Yeah.
And as the sun, I didn't even really know where I was. I just knew I was up in a tree in the middle of the Northwoods. So when the sun started coming up, I could see I was in this like fairyland of thick green moss. There was a little stream. It just was magical. And I sat there and, listened to the woods wake up. And all of a sudden I was hit with a horrible smell.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Egging, like rotting bodies, which went from the freshest air to this terrible smell. And all of a sudden, as I'm covering my face and my, trying to not be able to breathe the stink, I hear chest beating.
Okay.
Chest beating was not a grouse. I knew a lot about grouse. This was loud. The sound kind of went right through me. And that with the stink, and I went, God, that seems like a gorilla.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking, well, what would a gorilla be doing up here in the Northwoods?
Yeah.
And then there was a fleeting thought, and it all ended. The smell went away. The chest beating stopped. And I sat there on the stand uneventful the rest of the day. It became noon. We were all going to meet at noon at this camp that we had pre-designated. So I walked to camp, and the first thing my cousin said to me, did you smell anything while you were out there? And my other cousin said, yeah, what was that? So they had all experienced the chest beating and the stink, and we were all like a quarter mile or more away from each other.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then my youngest cousin goes, that was a Bigfoot. And I'm like, what? I hadn't even thought about like a Bigfoot in Minnesota.
Right.
And that was kind of the end of the conversation. It was never brought up again. But it sticks with you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then later in life, I bought a very early video camera. I paid $1,400 in 1973.
Oh, wow.
1974 okay. For a video camera.
Yeah.
That was a lot of money, right?
Yeah. Back then, that was.
Oh, gee. I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
But I wanted that video camera, and I started filming wildlife and things. And I slowly worked my way into a professional wildlife photographer. And started meeting other scientists. Next thing you know, I had an outdoor television show on the air back in 1985. And by the way, that show is still on the air, which is great. It's now the second generation host.
Oh, wow.
But through that show, I met a lot of wildlife people, scientists, biologists. And one day I was up in the Arctic. And I was fishing and filming a TV show called The Lake That's Never Been Fished. About it's like undiscovered lake that had these massive fish in it. And I'm reeling in a 30-pound lake trout on my break. And a big fish that was probably about 6 to 7 feet long, which I identified as a lake trout. Came out of a big rock crevice at the mouth of the Windy River and started swimming slowly to try to eat my 30-pound trout.
Oh, geez.
And I'm like, my jaw dropped, and I looked at my guide and I go, Ron, did you see that? And he goes, yeah, I've seen those things before. They're impossible to catch. And so I suddenly now stepped into a world now of not only being interested in regular animals, but odd animals, ones that were out of their niche, almost cryptids, basically. I mean, a 7-foot trout. Yeah, that's a cryptid. I don't care. The trout may not be, but a 7-foot one is.
You're right. Yeah, exactly.
And I saw it with my own eyes in this gin clear Arctic water. It was unmistakable. And so I got home from that trip and immediately started planning an expedition to go film one of these things. Yeah. So I was building these underwater cameras and underwater lures with cameras in them and all sorts of crazy stuff. I mean, no one had ever done anything like this before in history. Like this had never been done. And I got a hold of a fisheries biologist who had written all of the Time Life books on fishing. He was a PhD in fishing, got a hold of him, and he's like, yeah. And I told him what I saw, and he's like, I know they're there. And he felt exactly the same way. And we discussed how it could be possible. So we ended up booking a trip together going up to try to film one of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on that trip that I was with a number of other people, and I had to go to the bathroom just to get pee. It was so windy out there in this Arctic lake. I didn't want to end up spraying our friends. So I said we should probably just run to shore. Right?
Yeah.
Everybody could take a little break, if you know what I mean. And we get to shore. And on the sand beach, I noticed there's footprints coming out of the water.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like this water, if you can picture almost like Caribbean water,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like
it's just crystal clear, isn't it?
Crystal clear, beautiful sand dunes, no trees really. It's just it's gorgeous, very, very Caribbean looking. And so we pull up, and there's these footprints coming out of the shallow water onto the beach. And of course, I do notice them, and they're not bare. They're human-like footprints that are like 16 inches long and deep in the sand. And they're crystal clear. And so I got my camera going. I started filming, and we started all following the prints. And pretty soon everybody's interested. We go up in the pea gravel, and they're quite deep in this very hard-packed pea gravel. And I have my buddy leap off a rock to see if he can, dent the soil there. Couldn't even dent it, and yet these prints were like an inch deep.
Wow!
And it was raining, very light, kind of a drizzle that happens up there a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ground wasn't dry; it was damp. And so none of this made sense. So we just kept following the tracks. And here was my life-changing moment. Following the tracks, came to a little stand of stunted black spruce trees. And these spruce trees were maybe 7 foot tall. They could have been 150-year-old trees, but they don't get very big.
Right.
Because of the cold and the short seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a footprint, Mary, in front of the trunk, right in front directly, like maybe 8 inches in front of that tree trunk. And there's a footprint directly in a straight line behind it, which meant it's whatever it was stepped over that tree.
Oh, goodness. That
was definitely the old goodness moment.
It
was such an old goodness moment that my buddy goes, we need to leave now. He was dead serious. It hit him too. Like, whatever this is, just walk through here, and it's massive.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no. So I said, we gotta go beyond. We gotta get out. I could see there was tundra out beyond these little stand of trees.
Right.
I wanted to go out to the tundra to see where the tracks went. So we get out there, and you could see these tracks going off into the horizon in a straight line, but, kind of meandering around the slight rises and divots. And so I did a story, believe it or not. I had my buddy was a journalist, had him do a stand-up. We did a story, and I brought it back to the local station that I was working for at the time. On the mystery, I think the title of it was The Mysteries of the North. Right. So we did that, and I came back and I edited in the Patterson footage and, showed the tracks and gave all the tapes to the station, not thinking they were going to recycle those tapes after my story aired.
Oh,
so they did. And all I had was a VHS copy, which I sent to Peter Byrne. This is way back, like in the 90s, right?
Yeah, right.
I think it was like 91. And so that was life-changing. So I get home, I can't think about anything else. That's it. I'm done. I'm hooked. My whole life just focused on that, and I couldn't get it out of my head. At some point, I got a hold of Matt Moneymaker back when, Matt and I were pretty young we're almost kids, and got a hold of Matt, and and he knew I was in the TV business, and he was interested in getting information out on Bigfoot.
Right.
And so we kind of basically schemed up a Legend Science. And that's how that all started. And then we pitched that forever and couldn't sell it. And then finally, John Ford at Discovery Channel goes, that's a brilliant idea. Let's do it. And that was the start of my TV career in Bigfoot. So that started everything, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. And it always amazes me. People usually have one of two reactions. They run from it and they never want anything to do with it again. Right. I mean, leave the woods, the whole 9 yards. And then there's the rest of us that are out there running around trying to find it.
Right. We're curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's fear versus curiosity. I think a lot of people blow it off and just kind of forget about it because I think that deep down they have a fear. Yeah.
Well, and it doesn't fit into their boxes.
Yeah. They don't want to change their paradigm.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, I did not grow up per se with open-minded parents, but I've always been open-minded, and was always like, well, what's out there? And right. That kind of thing. And it's like, where's the next big adventure? Just that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I think that helps the open-mindedness.
Yeah. It is a paradigm changer, but then I connected the dots from that hunting trip.
Oh,
immediately, they just suddenly those two dots connect. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, gee, okay. Bigfoot. And I'm thinking, well, that would only be a walk straight north. And I'm thinking, what would they be doing up here? And I knew the caribou calved. And when the caribou are in these vast herds up there of caribou, and they calf, and they can't really run or move for a little while.
Yeah.
The calves get up eventually and walk and follow mom, but they're down for a while. And I thought, well, if you're a predator, what a feast you could have. Not only caribou calves, but also on blueberries up there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I always kept that in mind, caribou and blueberries.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I still think maybe the key to getting footage of one of these things is to do either helicopter or float plane surveys of the Arctic areas of the northern part of Northwest Territories, basically the subarctic Arctic border, with a float plane, slow with really good spotting scopes. Because there's no tree cover, there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
And I just, I really think you could get amazing footage. If you could spot one of these things traversing, it would have nowhere to go.
Right. Not out there in the open on the tundra. It sure wouldn't.
No.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. Yeah, it's amazing how they have eluded us. I mean, I know there are times when we've been out and we've been close. We've been close. And yet you can't get it. It's frustrating.
Yeah. No, I've been doing the Roadrunner coyote moves for 40 years now.
Yeah. I mean, we keep going back and doing it, it's like, and what is that saying? The definition of insanity is to continue to do what you've always been doing and expect a different outcome.
Different outcomes. Yeah. Well, so I literally probably never felt more like the coyote. It was our last trip up to Snellgrove Lake. That's where I shot a MonsterQuest episode. I actually two of them called Sasquatch Attack. And we went up there. I hadn't been up there in 8 years. And we went up there. I led a small group of guys. And I didn't expect anything to happen. But one of the things we did, we brought up Starlink. So we actually could monitor our cameras live because there's no radio signals, no Wi-Fi. There's no electricity really except a generator that you can run to charge batteries. But we set up Starlink, and we had little AI cameras, small ones. And then we took those and camouflaged the living heck out of them.
Right.
Literally using low smell, like hot glue to glue moss and sticks and just everything you do. And then put them all low versus high. Everybody else puts their cameras up high. We went low. I just was after that particular day to try to get some feet. Keep it out of eye level. It's a good strategy. I mean, it makes sense mentally, right? Yeah, mentally. That's where it ends, mentally. So we spent the whole day, and we did Vex cloth on them, so they don't even produce. They shield even any electrical impulses.
Right. Okay.
And we just covered everything you could imagine. Right. Everything. And these cameras have two-way microphones on them. So we put them all out, buried them to where nobody could see them. They're far apart. We all kind of had our pet camera that we wanted to install. Well, it's dark, it's late, and I hear a rock hit one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Click. And it sounds like a rock hitting the camera. And I'm thinking, guys, I'm like, listen, I think a rock just hit camera 2 or whatever. All of a sudden we hear another click on another camera. And I'm like, what are the chances that another rock hits another one? So it's going around, like letting us know
that they know exactly
where those cameras are. Or they're testing, whatever they're doing. They're playing games.
Yeah.
And so, and then we hear a voice come over one of them.
Oh,
and the voice sounds like it says, I want to talk with you. And that's the end of it.
Wow.
Clear. I can play it. It's clear as day.
Yeah.
Do you want me to play it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So this is clear as day, but I don't know if that's what it's saying.
Right.
But everybody's scrambling now, turning white. We all kind of turned white and scrambling because was that some electrical interference? Was it some kind of radio wave that broke through? But like one of the things Adam did right away is scanned every AM and FM, all the frequencies. There's zero. And I told them that.
Yeah.
We're so far north, there's no AM or FM signals even. There's not even static when you put an AM or FM radio on.
Okay. Yeah.
And so he did that. And he's like, yeah, you're right. There's nothing. And it's like, and then he checked is there anything that could have interfered? Was it any, us? No, we're all together. So let me just see if I can find it real quick here. But it's hilarious that we got fooled. Hold on here. Into thinking we could fool these things again. Here it is. All right, listen to this here.
Okay.
Put my volume up. This came over live. We heard this live.
All right, so listen.
Oh, wow.
All right, so listen.
That's pretty clear.
All right, so listen.
It sounds Native American.
Yeah.
To me.
Yes.
And like with a dialect. A deep voice, sounds male.
Yeah.
That's all I can figure out. I sent it immediately to David Ellis, and he was, like this has the same spectrograph as other Bigfoot vocals and talking. And that's all we can do, so we get that clip. Now that drives me insane. What did it mean?
Right. It's like,
what did it want?
Yeah.
What did it actually say? Did it say that, was that English, or was it mimicking one of us?
Yes.
I don't know. I have any of these answers. Or is it paranormal? Is it, who knows? I'm open-minded to anything.
Well, that's what we've started to find. So last spring we had an expedition, and we'd already had things going on, but we ended up one night, we had a UAP that we messed with for 2 hours.
Okay.
And
well, that could have been that too. We don't know.
Yeah. And it was like, so people are like, well, was that Bigfoot? And it's like, no, we were looking for Bigfoot and had this experience.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably would have had that experience if we hadn't even been looking for Bigfoot. If we'd have just been in that area, we'd have still had that experience,
And you're referring to a visual that you saw.
Yeah, there was
an orb or something.
It was a light in the sky, and where we were at, it was the put into the river. And so there's a large parking lot. And we'd split into two groups. Part of them were going to sit down there on the boat launch, and the rest of us were going to walk around and mill around. There's a long, big field. And we were just going to kind of work the tree line, just kind of putting ourselves out there as like a curiosity. And it was actually my husband. He goes, "What is that in the sky?" So if you looked down the field, you had the trees, you had hills above it. And this light was above the trees, but not above the hills. And it kept like back and forth. And then every once in a while it would dip down and come back up and just back and forth, almost like it was mining, right? And so part of the group stayed, and the rest of us got in the truck and tried to drive and get closer to it. I mean, we got out, tried to walk to it. Like I said, spent 2 hours messing with this thing, and it never, we shot lasers at it. We did all kinds of things. And so the next day during the daylight, I had two different gentlemen who had drones, and they flew them up the valley because we were looking, is it somebody's pole light? Is there a house up there? Is there anything?
Right.
There's nothing. There's nothing but forest up there. And we ended up the next night, it started to rain. We were like we ended up back there again. It was still there. It came back. We sat there and watched it for like 30 minutes that night, and I don't know what it was, but it was there 2 nights.
Yeah. We've seen, I can recall quite a few stories. I saw a red orb. Me and my buddy Joe and my son Josh saw a red orb rise off an island right in front of the cabin and then come right back down. And my son's like, "Oh, I know why you come here so much." He's like, "Yeah, that's really mysterious." As bright as the taillight.
Yeah.
And you're 500 miles from the nearest road.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I don't know if they're connected. Don't know.
Well, that's like us, who's to say? I'm sure that would have happened with, like I said, whether we were looking for Bigfoot or not. We just happened to be in the spot to see it,
Yeah.
And apparently in that area, people see that kind of stuff quite often. It seems to be the norm up there. And we're finding more and more on our expeditions of orbs, lights, things like that. It just seems to be becoming a little bit the norm.
Well, everybody saw a red orb on our last expedition to Snowgrove Lake, except me. Everybody saw one.
You're like, where's mine?
And in fact, Joe and I had my back to the window one night, and Joe and Adam were sitting on the opposite side, and they're both looking at each other. And I'm like, "Whoa, what happened?" And they're like, "You don't want to know." And I'm like, "What?" It's a big red light just streaked right in front of the window. And, it gets more, the farther you go north, the more mysterious it gets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can really weed out any human activity.
Right.
It's just none. There isn't any.
Yeah. Well, and that's like, I get tickled at people because people will tell you, "Oh my gosh, you got to go 100 miles in to find Bigfoot."
That ain't true at all.
It's come to Missouri. I can take you to find him.
Well, I've never had a sighting at Snell really, or anything other than some shadows once we saw walking.
Mm-hmm.
Far enough away to go. It could have been anything.
Yeah.
But the two really good sightings I've had, both have been within 2 miles of other structures, houses, gas station, whatever. but they were still in a really good corridor area.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely monsters on the edge is a thing.
Yes, very much so. Well, I think they learn, like the campgrounds and things, they can go in and raid those trash cans,
Yeah.
It's like, why wouldn't you go for the free food? I mean,
or watch people or whatever.
that's one too. I think they sit around and watch,
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not, you don't have to go way out in the woods to find them. They're a lot closer than you think they are.
Well, literally, and I can testify to this more than most people because I've spent so many days so far in the wilderness, and I can testify that too. You will never see an animal ever if you're in the middle. Let's say I fly you 500 miles straight into the Canadian Shield, drop you off in the middle, and make you camp there for a month. I guarantee you will go maybe a week before you'll even see one little bird.
Well, yeah, because you're not the norm there.
No, it's not that. Isn't that they're scared? No. It's the actual opposite. The animals actually have no fear of you.
Really?
I've had wolves come right up to me, sniff my leg, because they don't even know what I am. They've never been hunted. Oh no. I've actually hand-fed wolves, wild wolves up there. It's crazy, but it's just there isn't much wildlife because it's not in the edge. It's in the middle of nowhere. The animals, like I can go to Snell, spend a week there and see one seagull the entire trip. That's it. No pine martens, no moose, no bear, no nothing, because it's so far into the middle of the forest. And that's something people don't realize. The animals push to the edges, where there's corridors and edges and open areas. And that's where people tend to build. And humans tend to migrate to those areas, lake edges, the edge of fields and prairies. We built farms. We didn't farm the mountains.
No.
So the deer, like all the deer that I see here, the big herds are right here in the suburbs.
Oh yeah.
And the raccoons and the fox and the turkeys and the grouse and the pheasants and the coyotes are all right here on the edge. And absolutely there's Bigfoots that punch into that edge. Because there's easy pickings here. And they're not going to get hunted. There's no hunting. Dogs are on leashes. Yeah. I can go on. There's no camping. So if they get into a state park or on the edge of a state park where it's closed at dusk.
Yeah.
What a beautiful environment for them. There's nobody in there.
Absolutely.
In fact, my son, oh my God, he spent a whole career of sneaking into state parks that were closed at night, exploring. And when he did get busted, he's like, I'm just doing coyote research.
Yeah.
So,
nocturnal research, animal research.
I joined them a couple of times and I never got used to thinking I'm not, I'm breaking the law. I'm
right.
somewhere where I'm not supposed to be.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because in some places that can get you fined pretty good.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, if they want to do you dirty, they can.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just the thing. I've always, just obey the law. You sleep good at night. You don't have to. No, he's kind of a, like, no, it's where we have the activity. You go into these state parks at night and and they know there's nobody in there. And if they do see somebody in there, they're all over you like glue. They're curious, like, why is there somebody in here walking around without a flashlight?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's what we've kind of found too. It's like if we just put ourselves out sometimes, and I don't like calling ourselves a target. We're a curiosity.
Yeah.
They just, and if we just continue to talk and visit, and they come in because, it's like we're not a threat.
Well, you mentioned something that really I don't think people's light bulbs go off enough. When you said we just talk and visit, And I'm going to make some people's light bulbs go off on that.
Okay.
That thought, because I had an experience once. I was up in the Northwoods, and I was up with my buddy Joe, and we were up in the Northwoods. And my goal was to test the first infrared camera for Animal Planet to get their approval, because it had never been used on national television. I was working on a bear documentary called The Man That Walks with Bears, about 1999, I guess, or somewhere in there. Maybe it was earlier than that. But anyhow, I was out with an IR camera trying to get footage of wildlife at night so Animal Planet could review it, because they had never seen it, which, now think about how common it is now.
Right.
But I'm there and filming, and just me and my buddy are just talking. And I'm just filming. I'm filming a big chocolate black bear that had wandered into our purview, and there were a lot of mosquitoes that night. But all of a sudden, a flying squirrel landed on my head.
No.
Okay. And so I'd say, hey, there's a squirrel on my head. And I kept talking to Joe, and then Joe is kind of he likes to giggle, and we've been friends for like 30 years, and so we just keep talking, and all of a sudden another one landed on me, and another one. They just kept landing on me, and then I stopped talking, and they all took off.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it hit me. I'm like, oh, yeah, right. A predator would be quiet. But somebody who's friendly is not sneaky, is going to be talking. The squirrels are, flying squirrels and chipmunks and things like that are one of the few animals in the world that you can tame as an adult because of their high intelligence.
Okay.
So you can tame them as an adult. Okay. But my point is that the moment we were just visiting and talking, suddenly we're not saying we're a predator. And they just kept landing on me. And I was getting footage like you couldn't believe, a flying squirrel's shooting right on my camera. They land right on my camera, and I blew Animal Planet away with all this footage I got.
Right.
Okay. But that really sunk home with me in a big, grand way. My light bulb went way off. And so not only are what you're saying is true, but it's extremely important. You don't sneak around the woods.
And you're not ever going to sneak up on them anyway.
No. And even if you're hunting deer, you don't need to sneak on them. They're going to be more relaxed if you're just visiting, even talking to yourself or whistling soft. I've had wild deer walk right up to me and sniff me because I was humming or talking. And it's an amazing experience.
Yeah.
They're not afraid. Suddenly wild animals aren't afraid of you so that's probably the best way to have a Bigfoot encounter.
Yeah. Well, and we've laughed. We had all kinds of stuff happen to us in Arkansas last September, I think, is when we went down there. And what we realized, we're leaving camp. We have a very remote, small, private campground we're in, and we were the only ones in it. And we were leaving camp, and we didn't need to be because they were right there. They were chunking rocks on top of this one cabin because it had a metal roof. And
boy, I've experienced that too.
Right. And when we first got there, we thought it was acorns, and it just was all day long. And it's finally at one point you're like, okay, that tree should be bare. The amount, that.
Yeah.
Right. And it finally dawns on you, and we kind of go and look, and it's like, okay, the ground is not covered in acorns. So this is not what's hitting this, and we throw an acorn up and it doesn't sound right. We threw a hickory nut up there and it didn't sound right. Finally, when we threw the small rock up there, it sounded right. And we're like,
right. Okay. Exactly. Well, I've experienced the same thing. So yeah, they like metal roofs, and they like
do.
toss small rocks.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was young ones too, because there was a couple of gentlemen sat on the back porch of the cabin because it was right up against the woods. Right. And so it's about a 6-foot square. It's not a very big porch, and they're sitting on either side, and there's a door. And they're sitting there, Thurman looking around, just talking, quietly. And all of a sudden, right between their heads, the rock hits the door, in between them, not coming down.
Crazy?
Yeah. And they both about jumped out of their skin. They're laughing. They're like, that made us jump so bad.
Yeah, we've had the same thing so many times that they just miss you by that far.
Yeah. It's like, well, I think they could hit you in the head if they wanted to. They just don't, They just, because they did that off and on the whole time we were there. Throw stuff.
I really am starting to come to the conclusion, a theory, that they have an amazing sense of humor.
I think so too.
Because I can't explain half the things they do other than it's funny.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I personally know, if it was me and I knew there's this group of people out that I could mess around with, I'd do it. I'd sit up in the woods and laugh at them.
I had an experience once. I got to spend a number of weeks with a son and his father who spoke no English. They were Ojibwe and way up north. And we had nothing in common other than laughter. Like nothing. I didn't know a word of their language. They didn't even know a word of mine.
Yeah.
But we had to fish together and eat together and cut firewood and do all this stuff. And I had the funnest time of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had this laughter, and I mean laughter like I've never laughed before.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we communicated with everything. And so I think if you kind of go back to simpler times, I've always said the Native Americans have the best sense of humor in the world, and I think maybe Bigfoots do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gut level. It's like the humor of it.
Yeah.
I mean, why couldn't all of it just be the humor?
Mm-hmm.
Well, including some of the sightings we have. They just appear just as a joke.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's another one watching just cracking up.
Yeah. Well, that one's like, here, hold my beer, watch.
Yeah, exactly. What happens? I mean, it's as good as theory as anything else, right?
Right. It is. Because, I mean, we've got people that do that. So why wouldn't they? I mean, if they're as intelligent as we think they are, why wouldn't they do it?
I just talked to a guy who had his head grabbed in a tent.
I've heard things like that.
But
yeah.
Everybody walked away.
Yeah.
What was the purpose? The purpose to me, I think, was just humor.
Let's see how loud this one squeals.
Exactly. Just, something they can think about and laugh.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Whatever. People are probably mad at me for saying such silly stuff, but it could be because, at least I have some perspective. Like I said, that time where I spent all that time with his son and his father who just spoke no English. And it was just, I left that trip going, everything was done by humor.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, every moment was funny.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a lot of the times. It's funny that you say that because I was talking with a gentleman that went on my Arkansas expedition last year. And he told me, he said, I never laughed so hard in my life as I did out there with you all at night.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? He goes, no, let me tell you what. He goes, it's the best time of my life.
Yeah, exactly.
He said, y'all just get out there and cut up and act a fool. He said, now when it comes to business, he goes, you all are all business, but he said, you're all out there having a good time until that happens, And he said, it just made it very enjoyable, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, I'm thinking that's just how we act. I mean, because there's a kind of a core group of us that, end up at most of these things. And, we've been to many states together and done this. And we just get together and act a fool, and have
it's all about, teasing and teasing yourself. And just, I've gone into situations like that where you just the belly laughter, it
Oh,
gets
yeah.
you to your crying.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's, yeah. We, after we've been out there 3 or 4 days, we come home and it's like my sides hurt because, we've spent so much time laughing at each other out there,
That's
and
stupid things we all do.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I think, when we're out there and we're relaxed and we're laughing, and like you said, we're out of predator mode,
Yeah.
we're not a threat. So they're going to come in
Yes.
and see what all the commotion is about.
I think it's just something people really need to let it really get their light bulb to go off. So I've gone out, and they're like, shh, quiet, man. I'm trying to hide. We're gonna use red flashlights so nobody can see us. And I'm thinking, no. You just be yourself. If you're gonna use a flashlight, just use a flashlight. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's, we walk around a lot in the dark, but we're not trying to be quiet. I mean, there's because there's no sense in it. They know you're there, they know you're there. So there's no sense in trying to sneak in on them.
Right.
And we don't do a lot of like the whooping and the knocking and stuff because, we really don't know what that is, what we're saying.
No. The only thing I'll ever do is wood knock because it still seems like a respectful way to let them know,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, here, I know, I know.
Yeah.
Boom, one wood knock. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, knock. Yeah.
I know, I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what it means, but they know that
Yeah, they're like, okay, they know that we use that. Okay, they know. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and we have you were talking, your recording that you have. We had them last year. So the first night that we were out, we were on a river, and one of the ladies, she just did this scream, kind of like a banshee scream, right? Yeah. The next night we were on the other side of the river, but we're up on the hill because as you come down the hill, there's areas that you can pull off and camp in. And then when you get to the bottom, there's a round area to camp at the bottom too. And so we've split up. There's people on either side of the road at the end of the road. And there's 3 of us walking down the road. So we have multiple targets out there. And as we're walking down, we hear that same scream. And we're like, okay, so-and-so's screaming again, right? Doing a call. And when we got to the bottom and we started talking to everybody about that, they're like, yeah, no, that wasn't her. She didn't do that. Heard it twice that night. And we were like, that wasn't you guys? Nope. So we start checking with everybody. And nobody had done that. And we heard it twice as we were coming down the hill. So they were mimicking what we'd done the night before.
It's very cool.
So
very, very cool.
Yeah. Interesting stuff out there. I mean, just getting out in the woods and just paying attention, getting people to put their phones down and pay attention to the woods.
Yeah. That can be quite a challenge. But the forest and getting out and bigfooting and the added curiosity of the whole mystery is so healthy for people.
Yeah.
When I do talks, one of the first things I like to do is compliment all the people in the audience because I'm like, you realize that you guys are like in the 1% of intelligence because instead of being at the bar today, you just want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
You're curious, you're ignited, and that to me is just magical. Especially when you're getting in your 40s and 50s, and you still want to learn.
Yeah.
And just soak in any little tidbit you can soak in. Mm-hmm. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And that's what this mystery has done for all of us.
Yeah, it has. It's, well, and the thing too is you meet people you would have never met if you weren't doing this.
Yeah.
The relationships that have been built with these people.
It's insane.
it's phenomenal. I mean, I have some of my best friends because in 2019, I drugged my husband to a BFRO expedition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's where it started for us. I mean, well, it started a lot earlier for me, but that was the first time that I could ever really do anything about it. And he goes wherever I take him. But we have these relationships with people now that, like I said, we wouldn't have had if we hadn't have done that. So
I was at the Ohio Bigfoot conference a couple years ago, and during they opened a buffet or whatever, and somebody walked in, a young man walked in, and he yelled the top of his lungs so everybody in the room could hear. He goes, "I'm finally with my people." And that was all we heard out of him. But
yeah.
He was just announcing to the world that, you know, he felt camaraderie with everybody at that conference.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. It's actually a magical moment I'll never forget. That young man walking in and yelling that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it is, because they get to come into an environment where nobody's judging them for their weird encounters.
Right.
You know, and because you can't just tell anybody, "Oh yeah, I was out in the woods and I saw this 8-foot upright hairy,"
Yeah.
Because
we've all experienced the eye rolls.
Exactly. We've experienced that. And it's like, now you get with people and they're like, "Okay, well, you saw this. Well, this is what I had happen." And you get to hear all these phenomenal encounters, and things that people have experienced. And it's funny, I've got to where I just ask people, "Well, have you ever seen anything weird?" And they'll first say, no. And then you talk to them a little bit and they'll say, "Well, this did happen, or this happened to my uncle." Or once they talk to you a little bit and they figure out you're not crazy, then they're willing to tell you, "Well, yeah, I actually have had a couple of things happen," but it takes a little bit sometimes to get them to tell you that.
True.
We're talking about our relationships that we've made,
Yeah. I can't even fathom the butterfly effect.
Oh, yeah.
Can't even fathom it. I mean, and then I chose, to do the TV things. I did Mysterious Encounters and Legend Meets Science, and then MonsterQuest. And you think of all of the people that you've affected, not only because they decided to stay home on a whatever night and watch it or whatever, but you literally have affected like hundreds of millions of people.
Oh, yeah.
Because I found footprints because I had to pee. So basically, when I had to pee, I should have just thought a moment.
Stopped and went, "Now, how's this going to affect everybody?"
Well, it's going to affect me too. I mean, it affected everything.
Right.
But how many moments do we all have those in our life?
Absolutely.
How many little crossroad moments where you can make a decision? So if we would have just went, I'll just pee off the edge of the boat, we probably wouldn't be here right now talking.
Well, exactly. And that's just like Matt Moneymaker decided to, come up with the BFRO. And if he hadn't have done that, there's a lot of us
of course
doing this.
Yeah, Matt's had a huge effect on, that people don't give him enough credit. I mean, you can imagine fighting an uphill battle. Think about when he started, collecting sightings and kind of put his law career on hold and on, because he had that life-changing moments in Ohio.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like there's all these things that have happened, people, that have just brought this whole collective together at this point.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is. It definitely is.
Yeah, I should someday just try to reverse everything. What would I be doing? And I'd not had to go potty. I don't know.
He was like,
you also don't know. Would you be dead because something else happened, or you decided? Who knows? I don't know what I'd be doing. I have no idea. But I love doing it, and Still, all these years, no regrets, nothing but praise for the whole thing. In fact, I mean, there's times you actually almost have to bless Bigfoot for all the happiness it's brought you. So
exactly.
As weird as that sounds.
I know, right? It's like I tell people, I love doing the expeditions. They are a lot of work, but I love it because, we get to be out in the woods with people who are enjoying themselves and I wouldn't change a thing about it.
Yeah. I think about how it's also changed my kids' lives. It's had drastic effects on them too, and I think in a good way. I remember bringing my son to Snowgrove for his graduation, one of his graduation presents.
Mm-hmm.
Just take him on a father-son trip. And a lot of weird things happen on that trip. And one night we were in the boat at Snell, and the sun was starting to go down, and we heard like operatic singing coming from the shoreline.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't a bird, it's the skeptics like, you heard a bird. No, it was not a bird. It was a very female, beautiful, like operatic singer in another language, rejoicing this beautiful evening is what it sounded like.
Mm-hmm.
We sat in the boat and listened to it. We didn't say a word. We just listened to this. And after it was over, my son looked at me again and said, now I really get why you come up here. and he's like I never was real impressed by his ambition as a teen.
Mm-hmm.
But we got back from this trip. And the first thing he did that night is he goes, can I help set the table?
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And after dinner, I'm going to go clean my room. Wow, that'd be really cool. And so it changed him. But then it was very shortly after that, he put himself through college, bought a nice car with a job that he did, got a real estate license, got some kind of degree in as a chef at a college, and worked his way in the kitchen to pay for his college.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up now getting his PhD in, guess what? Audio.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what did we hear up at Snell?
Audio, yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm like, well, he might disagree with me. That's where he got his interest. But he's now, he's a research scientist
mm-hmm.
In audio. And I'm very proud of him. But I do think that trip had an effect on him.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. There's, that it happens to people in different ways. And the sing-songy that you're talking about, I have a lady that she experienced it. And she said for her, it makes her want to run into the woods towards it,
Yeah.
And she said it's a very conscious thing for her to walk back to the house and not run to the woods, but she has a lot of things happen, but yeah, he had one of those aha moments out there, he got it,
something. Yeah. I think it just goes deep into you when there's no explanation. Yet we were listening to this beautiful female voice echoing across the lake,
mm-hmm.
In almost an opera. And it was magical, and none of us know what it was. And we got home, and life has to go on. But you know what? I think it had an effect on him.
Mm-hmm. Well, it stays back there. It's like that plays over and over and over for you, and you're just like, what?
Well, my point is though, talk to your kids about Bigfoot. It's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to them about the mysteries and the strange creatures we don't know anything about, and all the things we don't know anything about.
Absolutely.
It's like planting a seed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my kids thought I'd lost my mind when I told them what I was going to do, and they're like, "You're going to the woods with 30 people you don't know?" And I said, "Well, yeah, absolutely."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Mother, human trafficking." And I said, "First of all, I'm the wrong age demographic. That is not going to happen." I mean, it was funny. And now they'll just be like, "Okay, where are you going? When are you going to be back? Did you see anything? Did you have a good time?" At this point, they're like, she's going to do it regardless. So we'll support it,
Yeah. What are you going to do? So,
yeah. They don't know what they're going to do with their parent. They just are like, Mom. Oh, well. So Doug, are you part of the new MonsterQuest?
No, not really. Other than creating the series and doing it, but no, I'm not part of the new production of MonsterQuest. Other than other legal things that I own or intellectual property and things.
Well, I can tell you, I was tickled to death when that came back, because MonsterQuest has always been one of my go-tos. I mean, I used to love it when, they would do the marathons of just, I just turned it on all day and it played and played and played and played and played, So I'm a big fan. I'm tickled that it's back. So
yeah, it was a good series. I was shocked when it went off the air because it was doing really good. They had to make room for shows like Pawn Stars and American Pickers and shows like that. That was the direction they wanted to go.
Yeah. It's like, give me my MonsterQuest.
Yeah, and then I don't think people appreciated it when it was on originally. I don't know why, but the people seem to appreciate it more now.
Yeah,
that it's been gone for 10 years, I think.
Wow.
See, no, longer than that. Way longer than 10 years.
Yeah, because wasn't it
15 years?
Yeah. It's been a while.
My head's a little foggy right now.
That's all right. We'll give you that one.
But it's been a long time, so it is nice. I mean, it's a compliment to see it come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I always tell people this in jest, but it could never be as good as the ones I did.
Well, the original's always the best, right?
Yeah.
Sequels just never.
The sequels are always the Temu version.
Right. Absolutely.
And I joke about that.
Right. Well, you have to, but it's and just that it's back, so that's a credit to you, that what you did in the beginning, they're redoing it again,
Well, that series was born out of curiosity. I wasn't some Hollywood producer who went, "Oh yeah, I think I can make money doing monster show. It'll be popular." There's no intention of that. Mine was, wow, okay, I'm a wildlife guy, researcher, and I am really into the Bigfoot mystery. Here's a way I can get research done that I could never afford to do. That was my motivation. At that time, I was really interested in getting the giganto teeth analyzed and how old they were. And once I found out I could actually borrow the teeth, the few that exist, and they would trust me with them to get them, look for DNA, dig for DNA in those teeth.
Right.
The MonsterQuest was born with called Giganto, the real King Kong that I did.
Right.
And that whole format that I set, which was based on curiosity. It was looking for extinct ones, maybe, and trying to figure out what they were back then, and then merging the two into a story. But my goal was, the expeditions that we got to do out in the Seattle River, that, because it pays for all that.
Yeah.
I could never afford to do any of that stuff. And so it was born out of curiosity. So if they see a difference between number one, or seasons 1 through 4 and season 5, it's because I'm not involved. because I kind of doubt that the new people had any of the experiences that I did in all the years of wildlife research and curiosity and inventing things for wildlife. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're just going to be hey, we're going to do this. Okay. Yeah. Well, and then they will do a decent job.
Right.
But it doesn't mean it's still kind of cut from the same cloth.
Well, it's like if they, I mean, they're not going to go in and copy it, just like you. They have to put their spin on it.
Yeah, right.
So that in itself will make it different, And like you said, they're not, they've not went out and done expeditions and been out with the wildlife and things like that. So that's going to make it different also. So, hopefully they just do it in a way that is still a very good show.
Well, it still is. Yeah, no, and I've seen a couple episodes now and it's entertaining.
Yeah.
And I feel that I think it'll do good. I really do.
Well, and it's usually on Friday nights. So I save it for Saturday morning with my coffee and I'm watching it. And I'm like, I know that person.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Well, back then when I started it in 2006, this whole network of researchers did not exist.
Yeah.
There was a few people. You could count them on one hand.
Yeah.
And now it's literally in the thousands, I would think. Many thousands.
Yeah. It is.
The audience potential is much bigger.
Yes.
The whole thing has kind of gone a little more mainstream, which I think is great. It's so important for people to realize that people are seeing these things it's being fueled on a regular basis. The mystery is not going to go away ever. People are not seeing unicorns.
No.
There's no unicorn research groups because people don't see them.
No.
If we even had an inkling of how many true sightings there were every day, I think we'd be shocked.
Yeah.
How many road crossings happen
in
front of cops.
About,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uneventful sightings, I think, are very, very plentiful, far more than we ever would think.
Exactly.
If I had to guess how many a day are seen in the country in North America, hundreds per day.
Well, and it's misidentification too. You're driving down the road and something like that happens. Like we were saying, people's paradigm, oh, that was a bear. When it's
reverse. I love it. Reverse misidentification.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, well, Doug, we've hit our time here. I appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us, tonight and talking all the cool things that you've done. I'm sure we could probably go on for another hour or two here, but your voice and, you need to rest because you're still recouping. So.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I even made it through the day. But yeah, no, I really appreciate it, Mary. And it was great meeting you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anytime, you'll have to come down to Missouri sometime and come to our conference and hang out with us.
Sounds good. I got to get you on Untold Radio.
Absolutely.
At some point here when you find time.
Absolutely. Just reach out and, if I'm not out in the woods on an expedition, we'll definitely do it.
Sounds good. I'll put you on the hot seat.
All right, we'll do it.
I'm going to wait until after you. Here's what you do. Let me know after you get the flu. And you just on your third day of the flu, call me.
Okay.
We'll get you on right now. I'm joking.
I'm ready to come on.
I'm joking. I've got to give you a little crap. Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, Doug. You have a good evening.
Yeah,
bye-bye.
You too. Good night.
Well, tribe, there we go. That was a great interview with Doug. He's extremely easy to talk to. Thank you all for spending the time with us tonight. And like I said earlier, please go on and like, share, and subscribe. And tell all your friends about the show. And remember, show me your Bigfoot.